What's going on, everybody out there? This is Grand Prix GTP02 here once more up here at Humble Hyundai here in North Houston, Texas. And today, for y'all's viewing pleasure and entertainment, I am pleased to present a vehicle that has one of the biggest cases of I have a split personality that I personally have ever laid eyes on. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 2014 BMW X1, the newest and now the smallest SUV/crossover from one of the most evocative German marques ever. Now, when I first clapped eyes on this thing, I had one of three opinions about this car. It's either A, a car, B, a wagon, or C, an SUV, and here's my reasons why. For a start, let's look at why it's an SUV. Well, for the most obvious reason, BMW has labeled it as one of their X series of SUVs. Now, this car joins in as the smallest X variant SUV that you can buy from BMW. Beforehand, the smallest title belonged to the X3. Then, of course, you had the vastly popular X5, and then, of course, you have the off-the-wall X6, which really, I don't even classify the X6 as an SUV, and even BMW themselves don't. They classify the X6 as a sports activity vehicle. But then, of course, I looked at this thing and I said, well, maybe this thing could be a wagon because it's based on a car-like platform and it sits low enough to be a car. It doesn't sit really high up to be more like an SUV, and the overall shape of it kind of gives that definition of that of a wagon. But then, of course, I thought, is it just a plain old car? Because it drives like one. It drives more like a 2 or a 3 Series compared to a BMW SUV. But BMW is so adamant that this car is definitely one of their more utilitarian small vehicles that they offer. So really, I'm just here to see, are their claims actually true? Now, looking at it from the outside, even without all the BMW badges festooning every single corner and every single wheel of this vehicle, I could personally tell you that if I looked at this car without all the badges on it, I can say that this is for sure, without a doubt in my mind, a true BMW. Because for starters, look at the front. The front definitely screams, I am made in Germany and I should wear a BMW badge. Because, for a start, the headlights, they're nice and swoopy, they've got that beautiful black bezel inside of them. And the design almost kind of reminds me of that of a 5 or a 7 Series, more specifically kind of like a shrunken down 7 Series. Then, of course, you have these cornering lights here, which when you flick your turn signal on and actually turn the wheel, each one of these will light up individually in the direction in which the vehicle is turning. But then, of course, the biggest giveaway that this thing is a BMW are these giant twin kidney grills right here in front, laced with a nice little bit of chrome running around the exterior piece. Now, for me, the front end of this car is definitely the business. Actually, if I really was to be honest, and maybe you guys may be looking at this car a little bit different, but it almost looks like kind of a 7 Series and a 6 Series got together, threw some of their genetics in a pot and said, okay, we're going to put this on the front of a wagon-like SUV utilitarian vehicle. Now, for what you guys are looking at here, this is actually the entry level into the whole of BMW's lineup. This is a base model BMW X1. Now, BMW loves to use all sorts of letters and numbers to designate all of the models of their vehicles, but then things get even more confusing when you try to select the various trim levels for this new X1. So let's break it down for you just a little bit. Right here on the door you can see it says S-Drive28i. Just a bunch of gibberish to most people, but it actually has a very good purpose why it's labeled as such. BMW offers two variations of the X1 and even some of their other SUVs. They can either be labeled as an S-Drive or an X-Drive. S-Drive, in this case, means that this vehicle is two-wheel drive. If this were an X-Drive, it would mean that this car is four-wheel drive. And then, of course, the numbers and the I designate the powertrain of this vehicle. If you guys remember from our little video, first reactions testing the 2013 BMW 328i, you know that that car was a 4-cylinder variant, and in this case, it is no different. The X1 can be offered as a whatever drive 28i or 35i, and I think they actually offer some diesel variants in other parts of the world, but at least not that I've seen here in the US. 28i basically means that this car, this X1 that you're looking at here, is the 4-cylinder option. You can get this car with a 6-cylinder engine in it, and that is designated as the whatever drive 35i. So that basically kind of breaks it down. This is whether 2 or 4-wheel drive, and this is the powertrain. Simple. Now, one of the things that really strikes me about this car is this is actually one of the only cars that I can look at that I can say a sort of sandy, silvery, beige-ish color actually looks good on. What the color you guys are looking at, if my memory serves me correct, is called Kalahari Beige Metallic. It's a very not in-your-face gold. It's not an old person brown or gold. It's a very subtle goldish color, and it has a lot more silver in it than you might expect. When looking at it on a cloudy day like today, it actually looks almost bright silver, but when you look at it in the sunlight, it turns that very much golden hue, which is definitely a very, very nice thing. And looking here at the back of the car, this also definitely screams BMW. Just looking at these swooping LED light bars going across the taillights here, and even this, though this is a base model, these, actually I think these are LEDs. Nope, I'm sorry, I stand corrected. They look like LEDs, but there is an actual halogen bulb way back there in the back. So I think, I may be wrong. I'll have to do a little bit more research on that because this is actually the first time I've ever tried to review this car and or look at one of these. So I think it does have LED light bars here, but it also has some halogen bulbs and other technology hidden in the back. But looking at the back of it, I would say the back end resembles that of maybe a 3 Series, a 2, not even a 2 Series, more like a 3 or 4 Series in terms of BMW's modern design language, because you know you have this real large portion of the taillight here and then you have a really small portion back here. But nevertheless, again, I really think this is definitely a car that deserves to wear that BMW badge. Of course, there you go, get a good look at the logo. And what's so funny is the last time I ever heard of any machine being called an X1, it was an experimental fighter jet way back in the day. But then again, this thing looks nothing like a fighter jet. Now, even being a base model, I am actually quite a fan of these nice 17-inch bright silver painted aluminum alloy wheels. They actually do set this car off very, very nicely. You won't find anything like Steely's or anything like that on a base model BMW, but for a base car, these 17s actually fill up the wheel well very, very nicely. Can't tell you how many times you get a really nice looking car, but you don't get wheels or tires that fill up the wheel well like these. And these are 225/50R 17s all the way around. Now, when it comes to actually gaining access into the X1, one of the things that kind of shocked me, and this may be just for the base model, is that this car doesn't have any form of a proximity key access system. In fact, this little key fob here, which looks like it's about from 2005 or 2006, is actually only used to start the vehicle, and I'll show you how that works here in just a minute. If you look at the door handle here, there's no ribbed patterns or anything like that. There may be some as an option if you get a particular package on this X1, but this being a base model, I'm not expecting any form of high technology stuff. But we'll go ahead and open it up. A typical little beep beep that every BMW does nowadays. And there's a very nice accent to this Kalahari exterior. I really like this black leatherette upholstered interior. I mean, the styling is definitely BMW. It is very, very much a German kind of quality interior. It even smells German. I don't know why, but it seems all BMWs, Mercedes, Audis, they all smell the same after they've had a few miles put under their belt. And even though this is a 2014, this car has already done 33,000 miles. Hard to believe, eh? Well, anyways, as far as materials go, it's very much German. The top of the door panel here, nice and plush, nice and soft. You also have this beautiful polished wood veneer trim. This can be had in a couple different colors. You have these aluminum door panels, or aluminum door handles rather. Nice door grips, a little bit plasticky, but again, more padding down here on the armrest as well. Probably in some upper end models, you'll get things like padded leather and stuff right here, but again, being a base model, it really shows that going back to basics isn't really such a bad thing. What is kind of a surprise is the fact that all the seats in this car are manually adjustable. Being a BMW, even on a base model, you would think that they would have some sort of power adjustment, but nope, these are fully manually adjustable seats. And I don't know, I'm not really a fan of the leatherette in here, just because when it ages over time, it's not really soft. It turns kind of firm, especially here in a state like Texas, and down here in Houston we get that just absolutely brutal sunlight, so it really does take its toll on the interiors. As far as what's directly in front of the driver, you got this nice soft grain wheel with these nice bolstering extensions, about 10 and 2 o'clock, typical BMW fashion. Hands-free Bluetooth and radio controls and so on. You've got automatic headlights. This car can be equipped with projectors. But this one here only just has the standard halogens. You've got your cruise control, you've got your indicator stalk, you've also got the button labeled BC, which is your little instrument panel display up top, and then you also have your parking light controls and stuff as well, intermittently timed wipers, and that's about it. Now, as far as actually getting into the vehicle, you don't fall into this thing, but you do have to step down a good bit because it is of a lower status. But once you shut the door, it closes with a nice soft thunk. It's very typical BMW. And the driving position, well, depending on how you have your seat, in this case, it's relatively where I would be. The steering wheel is almost directly in my face, which I think is kind of odd. Maybe move the seat back just a little bit. That might help you. But one thing that is not helping this car at all is these gauges. They look like something out of my friend's old 2006 3 Series, and they pretty much are. They're kind of from last generation BMW. If you think about all the new cars that they've come up with lately, you know that they have all the electroluminescent displays and stuff like that, where you can't see any of these numbers until the car is turned on. In some fashion. The steering wheel, though, not too big. It's actually perfect size. The visibility out the front of this car is great. The windshield stretches very far from corner to corner. Definitely very good visibility. And even rearward visibility, you've got those 3/4 windows back there, and the rearward looking out the back window isn't exactly the greatest because you don't have very much room to see out. But nevertheless, that's not really a hindrance. I'm just looking in all different directions here. Now, the center stack, this is something, again, very typical BMW, keeping it basic but functional. Up here, you don't have any navigation screen at all because this is a base model. You only have this little storage in here. Then you have your hazards and your door lock switch. This is very typical BMW. You just have the button that locks all the doors. Then I'll unlock all of them at the same time. Then, of course, the radio. Very, very simple to understand. You've got all of your different preset radio stations and functions and so on. You push the audio button that can toggle between auxiliary inputs, the tuner, CD player, and so on and so forth. Then, of course, you have this dual zone automatic climate control system. Again, it's not button laden, but there are quite a lot of buttons to actually go over. All of your different climate zones over here, it's kind of a mix and match deal. Pointing up, that aims at your face. It aims actually at the windshield, my bad. Then you have this one here, which aims directly at your face, and then this one aims at your feet. So you could have all three of these going at the same time, and it's kind of like selecting an outfit in the morning. You can mix and match all sorts of different things. Then of course, you have your maximum air conditioning. You have the all button, which is kind of like a sync button. Temperature controls for both sides, automatic air conditioning off and fan speed, automatic or manual air recirculation, then front and rear defroster, and also air conditioning introduction. Then last but not least, before we get to the powertrain and stuff of this car, you have the Eco Pro mode, which is BMW's efficient dynamics kicking in, even though there's nothing up here on the dashboard that suggests this car has such. And that really kind of dulls down the engine. It does all sorts of stuff through the car's ECU to allow it to drive at its most fuel efficient, turning off the dynamic stability control and so on. And then finally, you have your auto start stop. Now, the auto start stop is pretty much integrated into all BMWs. Basically, with that on, you pull up to a stop once the engine's warm, it shuts off to save a bit of fuel. Once you put your foot on the gas again, vroom, the car starts up again, and away you go. Then, of course, you have the auxiliary USB inputs down here. Love that. Then, of course, you have BMW's Steptronic 8-speed automatic transmission. Now, the way this works is you've got this little stalk here. You can pull it back, push it forward, have the button on top for park. Then, of course, you have the manual mode, and it moves freely even though the car's not even on. As you can see, we haven't started it yet. But as you can see, it moves backwards and forwards very easily, and you have to keep your foot on the brake, put your finger on this little unlock button, pull back all the way for drive, pull it back just a hair for neutral, or push up just a hair for neutral, or push all the way up for reverse, and then when you're in your selected gear, or you want to stop, you just push the P on top, which is park. Then, of course, all the way over, you push forward to go down a gear, pull back to go up a gear, or you can just knock it over and leave it in the sport mode. And the sport mode changes the car's throttle response timing and so on. And it's all surrounded by this beautiful polished wood grain trim that we first saw on the doors, and that comes all the way across the dash. But we've had enough chit-chat about this thing. Let's go ahead and start this beast up. So, you got the key, goes into the slot in the dash. As you can see, that supplies power to the car. Open the door just a little bit and you get that beautiful melodic BMW chime. Then to start the vehicle, all you do, simple push button ignition, keep your foot on the brake, put the key fob in the slot, and then hit the button on the dash to fire up the engine. Now, as I said, what you're hearing is BMW's N22 2-liter twin-cam 16-valve turbocharged and intercooled inline 4-cylinder engine. And I gotta say, it is definitely snappy for a 4-cylinder engine, and you get this beautiful little turbo whoosh. Let's see if you can hear it. I just love that sound. It's not as raunchy or as loud as the 3 Series or even, you know, a sort of M-tune car, but it definitely does provide a nice little soundtrack to it. As far as the stereo goes, it's not too loud, it's not too offensive or in any way. Go all the way over to tuner here. I love that song, great one. But anyways, we'll go ahead and flick on the lights and the fog lights. Go ahead and pop the hood and get a look at the front of the vehicle. And there it is, BMW's 2-liter dual overhead cams, 16-valve inline 4-cylinder engine. This is their twin power turbocharged unit, so it does have their twin scroll turbocharger and intercooler system added to it. The numbers are actually really surprising, 240 horsepower and 260 pound-feet of torque, and it's been timed at a 0 to 60 run in 6.2 seconds, and that's just been the generic tested consensus. I've had 0 to 60 times tested as low as 5.9 to 6 seconds, and about as little as 6.5. So between 6 and 6.5 seconds sprint to 60 miles an hour, and this thing will get you over 30 miles to the gallon on the highway if you tickle it right. But sadly, it only runs on high grade fuels, so that means 93 octane here in the US. But still, quite a powerful little motor for a car that actually weighs about the same, maybe a little bit less or more as a 3 Series. I just love the look of the front end of this car. It just sounds absolutely awesome, and it's real loud. It's I mean, in probably a different color like black or something, you look at the front of this car and it just looks evil. I just like those headlights. With projectors, maybe it might change it a little bit, but just standard halogens even look pretty snazzy on this car. But now that we've explored the driver's section, the engine and everything else, let's take a better look at the rest of this X1. Now, back seat room is definitely not what you would call the best in class, and by far and away one of the things that I always criticize a lot of luxury cars about, there's really no support in the back seat here at all. If you look at that seat, it's absolutely as flat as a pancake, and I sit in it, again, you fall down, and there's no butt support, no leg support, no anything like that. It's really rather basic for the interior, and back here, about the only comfort you have is a nice little set of cup holders here in the back and a fold down armrest. And also these seats are 60-40 split fold. That side will fold down as the 40 side, this will fold down as the 60 side. So definitely not too bad. But again, looking at it up front, you know, again, I just look at that dashboard and I think basic BMW. I mean, you could even load one of these out and you're not gonna get very much in the way of options. Then we'll go ahead and look in the trunk, and I was correct. Those are LED light bars. Very, very snazzy. Very pretty. Good job, BMW. I like the way you think. Now again, being the smallest of the X series of SUVs, it definitely is not going to be as spacious as an X3 or an X5, but for what you have, there actually is a fair bit of space back here. You can actually lift up the rear floor. You got a little bit more space underneath. Very, very nice. Got your license plate frame. It looks like a jack or a first aid kit or something in the corner. And then of course you got BMW's roadside assistance right inside the tailgate, just in case something bad happens. Now the way the seats fold down, very simple, just like a lot of cars nowadays. There's a trigger here. As you can see, they fold flat, allowing for ample cargo room. Then when you're done with whatever you have in the back, they lock in place. Kind of a halfway lock, which is very interesting that it'll adjust itself. Yeah, we'll leave it so that it's even there. Interesting, very interesting. I love the way these doors sound. They're loud, but they sound solid. Just listen. It's not like a soft thud like what you would think of in, like, say, an Audi or a Mercedes when talking of the Germans, but nevertheless, this is actually quite a snazzy car for the money. As far as sitting in the passenger seat is concerned, again, me being of a taller status, it is somewhat of kind of a step down or fall in. I wouldn't say you're falling into the vehicle, but again, trying to get into this thing, you kind of have to duck your head a bit for the door frame. But other than that, sitting here in the passenger seat, everything here feels of very good quality. You even have a little cup holder here in the center console. How lucky are you? That's awesome. Anyways, overall impressions of this car, I think BMW actually did a very, very awesome job just creating their new small wagon, SUV, utility vehicle, whatever you want to call it. Good job, BMW. Anyways, guys, I hope you've enjoyed this personalized walk around and look through of the 2014 BMW X1 S-Drive28i. As further reviews are concerned on this vehicle, it will be featured in our upcoming series, First Reaction, so you will get to see us drive this beautiful little wagon here. And on top of that, I've included the link down below to this vehicle's ad on Humble Hyundai's website, which is humblehyundai.com. And if one of you wishes to come take a look at this vehicle while it is still available, just click the link, add in all your personal info, and we'll take care of it from here. Until then, guys, I hope you guys have enjoyed this nice little walkthrough and tour, and look forward to many more in the future. Take care, everybody, and have a great day.